We're going live. She's going to go live. You know him? Mm-hmm.
That's because they said the
All right, being 6 o'clock, I'm going to call the Coos Bay work session to order, joint work session. Please all rise and join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So virtually, we have Carmen Matthews, Councillor Carmen Matthews, and Councillor Sarah Stevens on virtually. Also, this will not be we won't make any decisions this evening. We'll just have discussions. All right. First item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? Virtually, is there anyone? Seeing none, we move on. Review of upcoming City Council and URA Board action items. First one is shopping cart ordinance presentation. Captain Lindell, you have all the answers for us, I hope?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you. I am Captain Tom Lindahl with the Police Department. I'm the administrative captain. Tonight I'm going to be providing the Coos Bay City Council with a PowerPoint presentation on options related to a shopping cart ordinance. Staff presentation will be done obviously by myself. Just a little background. So over the past several years, there's been a presence of abandoned shopping carts on our streets, sidewalks, natural areas, private property, and it's become more prevalent in our community. The issue has also been discussed at the Coos Bay Homeless Work Group. I think it was early last year, I think is when we spoke about it. And this has also been identified as a 2023-2025 Coos Bay City Council goal. So staff has conducted some research on the topic, found options to provide you guys through the state of Oregon, which details kind of the plan through the Oregon Revised Statutes 98.515 and 98.520. And so I'll be providing you guys with a PowerPoint presentation. Maybe. All right, so we're going to have just a kind of a discussion about this. The purpose is obviously to provide some ideas or thoughts what's allowed through ORS as far as shopping carts and abandoned shopping carts in our community. So kind of first thing we went through was, does the community have a problem? These were some of the questions that staff asked themselves kind of to decide if this was something worthy to bring forward as a public problem. So some of the questions that we asked were, are abandoned shopping carts noticeable in places outside of their business lots? We came to a yes conclusion on that. And then, are they ending up in our waterways, wetlands, and forests? We see them pretty frequently, especially in our forest areas, kind of off the beaten path. We'll find a lot of shopping carts. Is this detracting from the image of our city? Are community members noticing the issue and talking about it? We frequently get questions from the public about this. I believe at a town hall meeting last June, we got a lot of questions about this. So I think it comes up pretty frequently from members of the public. And then are other communities addressing this issue? There's several communities across Oregon that are addressing shopping carts currently. So the city is currently taking some steps to address abandoned shopping carts within the community. The police department and the public works staff typically go out and they'll address these when they're available. Shopping carts that are on private property are often left to the property owner to deal with. We're typically, as city staff, only dealing with ones that are on city-owned property. So if staff is tied up doing other things, sometimes these go unaddressed for maybe a day or two until we can free up some personnel to go do that. Ultimately, the responsibility, though, for maintaining shopping carts is the responsibility of the shopping cart owner. So around the state, there's several municipalities across Oregon that have shopping cart ordinances in place. Most of these are going to follow the state ORS laid out in ORS 98.515, which is the unauthorized appropriation of shopping carts. So I'll kind of go through the requirements for those, what the state kind of has allowed local governments to do. Obviously, they give you the authority to enact or adopt an ordinance or regulation to prohibit unauthorized shopping carts. It requires that the ordinance substantially conform with ORS 98.520, which is really the meat and potatoes of what they kind of give us authority to enact. So it does not restrict local governments, however, from enacting ordinances against businesses that are subject to, but not in compliance with the ORS. So they kind of left a little loophole there if businesses are not complying with an ordinance or some sort of rule that we put in place. So ORS 98.520, this is the one that kind of lays out, the rules of the ordinance. So it applies to all businesses that supply shopping carts for public use at their business. It requires them to post a sign at the business informing that unauthorized appropriation is a crime under the ORS. It also requires businesses to post a toll-free number that's accessible to the public, where the public can call this toll-free number and report shopping carts to the business. It requires that businesses mark their shopping carts with a business name, a little statement that unauthorized appropriation is a crime, and the toll-free number that someone could call and report the shopping cart if it's found off the property. And it also requires businesses to retrieve their shopping carts or contract with a service to retrieve the shopping carts for them. So the ORS would require, or the city ordinance, if passed, would require that shopping carts be retrieved that the person owns within 72 hours after they receive a notice. The notice has to be or should be done through the 800 number. That also applies to police. If we're reporting it or city government's reporting it, we're supposed to use the 1-800 number that they establish. Local government can take custody of abandoned shopping carts, and they can impose a fine up to $50 on the owner of the shopping cart if it's not retrieved within 72 hours after the local government makes report to the business. And local government may release the shopping cart to the property owner upon payment of the fine, and local government may take title of the shopping cart and dispose of it if it's not retrieved within 30 days after notice is made to the business. So that's kind of what the ORS allows us to do. There's 14 businesses that this would impact within our community that I kind of came up with. I'll be honest, the more I went down the list, I'm more like, oh, these people have shopping carts and these people have shopping carts. So I think it's a pretty inclusive list, but there may be some that I missed. So a financial impact. So the city of Coos Bay could incur some financial impact for staff time to collect the carts and then disposal or destruction costs. Local businesses may also incur costs. That would be a toll-free number that they have to set up, signs and marking, and then a retrieval fee for staff time themselves, or if they choose to contract kind of a resource collectively as a group to retrieve the carts, that could also be a financial impact to them. So next steps could be seeking your guys' guidance on if this is something the council would like to pursue. And then if so, I would suggest that staff contact local businesses to kind of educate them on this potential ordinance and determine what their impact would be as far as the business is and how this may jeopardize their business or the impact that the city's actions would take on them. And then I would return to you all in June and talk about what I found out from the local businesses. So that concludes my presentation, but I'm open to any questions or information I can provide.
So Captain, how many shopping carts, I don't know, last 2 years, have we collected? And then I understand that we had a stack on city shops, which we're had in the process of getting rid of, if there's a cost for us to dispose of them?
Correct.
Are we talking 100, 200?
No, I don't think it's quite that high. Luckily, Greg with Public Works, he was able to kind of collect some data for us, and they, on average, collect about 30 carts per month.
So over the last year?
That's the last 5 months, about 30 per month. I can tell you over the summer months, it was substantially higher to probably about 100 carts a month we were collecting.
So, I mean, over a year period, we're talking
A substantial amount, yes.
Right.
Not all these are being stored at the city shops. So we
I
don't,
understand, but we're collecting them and we're having to deal with them in some fashion.
correct.
And so do we have any idea of the financial impact, Nicole or anyone else, what this is costing us? Jim?
I have the data for the last 5 months. It's just over $5,900 in public works staff.
$5,000? Is that time and taking care of them, disposing of them?
Yes.
That's all of it? How about the police?
Hey y'all, could you try hitting your mic buttons? It's a little bit foggy over here on this side.
Sorry about that.
Me too, sorry. So so 5,000 for the public works, staff, right?
That's correct.
And disposing of the material.
That's correct.
And how about police?
I don't know that we have a kind of firm number. The patrol staff, by and large, do not go out and regularly collect shopping carts. They may get maybe 5 a month. Captain Schaefer and I, we have a little more free time sometimes, and we go out early in the morning and we may collect a few shopping carts here and there. So,
And you got Roger with his pickup truck. The point is, I guess, it's the financial impact is, I mean, 5,000 seems doesn't seem like it's enough. I think it would be more than that, but that's just me. But go ahead.
How many are groups like AYA doing? Because I know that they're assisting around the community as well. Do we have any idea?
I do not have any idea.
How many of the businesses that you listed are complying with the notices that they must post by ORS?
So none of them are currently required to. That would be part of the ordinance that would be passed, that they would be required to do that. I can tell you that about a year ago, I think it was May this time last year, I reached out to the local businesses to kind of participate in this conversation, and only 2 of them showed up to the meeting to participate in it. So I think it requires a little more work and effort to really get them engaged with this process.
Thank you. I knew that you had reached out to some. The carts that you are finding, I understand that there is some difficulty in sometimes that the markings are no longer on the carts.
Correct.
Is that a large percentage of the ones that are being collected, or do you kind of know where they go?
It's a pretty small percentage, and they're not able to take everything off. Carts are really color coordinated toward their business, and so we're able to kind of place them where they should
Figure
go.
out. And then when you do have a cart that is collected, are we having to return it there? Are we storing it at the shop? Are they coming and picking it up? Are you getting good help from the community that it's being lost from, I guess?
Yes, kind of all the above. It kind of depends on staff time and where we are and kind of what else is going on. If we have the ability to take it back to the business, generally we are trying to do that. However, sometimes they get stored at the city shops, and we'll contact usually their loss prevention who comes and gets them.
They do come and get them?
Yes.
Okay.
Captain, when you were talking about other cities that have ordinances in place, did you reach out to them and find out if the programs have been successful?
So I did. I put out a kind of a message on one of our boards to the Oregon Association of Chiefs of Police and received no feedback on the effectiveness of their ordinances, just that they had an ordinance. So I don't have a good kind of measurement on that. I know up in the Portland metro area, the businesses use a contract service that goes out and collects them. So I don't know how much city involvement they have up in the larger communities.
So what communities currently have an ordinance in place?
Newport, Tillamook, I believe Lincoln City, all of the cities in the Portland metro area, because they're all using this contract service. Albany, Eugene, Roseburg, kind of all the way down the I-5 corridor. I would say the vast majority of the cities on the west side of the Cascades.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not so interested in the ordinance. I'm more interested in something that I'm aware of up in the Salem area. A manager of a store up there, they use like a fence situation, electric fence, and they have brakes on the carts, so they can't leave the property. That's where I'm more involved in, or think that we should go. I think the ordinance is going to be something that's hard to do, and it's, again, going to take more manpower. It still doesn't take the carts being picked up away from us. I know there's got to be an expense to the owners of the stores on that. And I've talked to this general manager, and that's what's happening in that area, and it seems to work because the cart can't leave the property. Now, I know that's probably an extra expense, but I know there's got to be an expense to these carts. And, you know, right now we're looking at $1,000 a month is what minimal costing us, which would be $12,000 a year, and then plus the carts that we have to dispose of and everything else. So anyway, that's more where I was heading when I brought this up. I'm not sure if the rest of the council feels about this, or if I can find out, send the Salem area. I think it's Salem that does it. So
I think that this kind of was discussed by the homeless work group quite a bit, because it's definitely a growing problem. This is more today than I think we were even talking about a year ago, that we're running into this. And I know, I just asked about North Bend, because I know I'm seeing them a lot more frequently over there. So I think it works if we work together as cities, but I'm not so sure that even a $50 fine is going to make a business want to go to that expense to pick up a cart, because they have a problem with getting people to do that as well. But we have to do something, because it has to be taken care of. And if there's no incentive to stop someone from taking it off the property, and I don't think $50 is an incentive, a fine to pick up a cart. That's just my personal opinion. I think we need to work with the businesses that have shopping carts and really come up with something that's gonna stick and work for everyone.
Yeah, the trouble with the fine as well that we talked about a couple times in the work group in here is you've got to know whose cart it is, and a lot of times they just rip off the identifiers, so you've got a cart with nobody to fine. One thought would be similar to what we did with the restaurants requiring grease traps or a contractor. We could require businesses to contract with somebody to pick up carts. Just have them all do some kind of pay-in to a group to do that.
I think just one more point to that, Councilor Farmer, is that, this is a safety issue as well. I mean, safety for our staff that have to pick up a hefty, awkward cart, and hazard when they get left on a sidewalk for people driving down a road if we get wind here and they move and we're hilly, and but some of the places that you're finding them are not easy to get them out of either. So.
And another aspect I think that we're missing here is that this facilitates the homeless to utilize them to transport their items and also leave them, which means that's another expense that we're utilizing in picking them up. So if we can eliminate that cart to being utilized in that fashion, I think that's another benefit to us. So
I think also the fact that Newport and Lincoln City and a lot of our coastal communities already have this ordinance in place, I think it'll make it easier to accept. I was just up in Lincoln City and Newport this last weekend, and I didn't see a single shopping cart. So I would like us to go back to those cities and maybe get some more information on learnings from the ordinances that they have in place. I don't know how the rest of the council feels, or if Councilor Matthews or Councilor Stevens has any comments in regards to this.
Yeah, I'll give you my basic firsthand thoughts. It sucks that the businesses are the ones having to incur the cost when they're unfortunately the ones that are victim of theft. But at the same time, it's their property, and I would imagine they want it back. I'm a little bit worried about the cost of replacing all of the shopping carts in all of those places. I mean, they're like $200 a piece, and I don't know what the cost is to set up this brake system, but I imagine that it's expensive. Maybe they're really motivated to deal with this because they're having to purchase $200 carts over and over and over again, and they're like, please help us figure out this situation. I'm kind of liking the contracted services of people going around picking them up. I'm not sure if we're at the level where that is warranted to have somebody picking things up like that, but maybe we can dovetail it with a litter patrol contracting services. I have no idea. I'm not well versed or organized with my thoughts yet, but my initial thing is just bummed that the businesses have to incur the cost when they're the victims of theft in the first place. But something needs to be done. So I don't know. I'm open to all kinds of discussion.
Related to the contract idea, I didn't intend for that to be the idea that staff would do it. I can think of a couple agencies in town that would pursue a contract of that type. For funsies, I ran the numbers on what it would cost based on what we've paid so far this year, and generously assumed we have 3 months of summer, but it came up just shy of $20,000 a year.
And if I recall, you mentioned that 2 businesses that had carts that were invited to talk about this when the homeless work group was going on, out of, what, how many? 14?
I think there was 18 that I invited
18?
total.
So, I mean, that speaks something too. It wasn't like you just, dropped off a letter or mailed one. Staff actually tried to communicate that this is a growing issue at that time with the businesses. So I'm probably a little less sympathetic to the cost thing, because I think we have tried to reach out to the businesses that have these, and I understand, also that they don't want to confront the reasons why you don't want your people to confront somebody trying to steal a cart, but it happens, and so we have to deal with it somehow, because I think it has a multitude of issues for the city.
Yeah, again, I just want to reiterate, I think that Stephanie said an ordinance where we just fine them 50 or we contract out with someone, I don't believe that's going to resolve this issue. I can tell you, I know an individual that decided to clean out a sloop, had a pickup full, took it back to a store I won't mention, got the general manager out there, and he said, I don't want those, because they don't want to clean them up, they don't want to deal with them. And so there's another expense taking it back. So the store would have to clean them up and get them ready, and they already have an expense, as Carmen said, I imagine $200 each. So if we can set up a braking system, I know it works up in Salem. He said unless the battery runs out, but these are even solar, I understand, and the way they work, and it's just like an electric fence for your dog, that type of thing, and it locks up, and they can't leave. I mean, I've gone up to some stores I've seen up in the rural area, I haven't seen them here yet, and they got a broom, I take it back, I've seen one. They got a broom handle sticking up so the person can't go outside the store. Well, that's not advantageous for someone that's a senior or disabled trying to get their cart to the car to unload their product either. So I don't think that's a beneficial way to have it happen, but I see some stores doing that. Sarah, the quiet one?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Councilor Matthews that I think that could potentially be a huge cost incurred for businesses. However, ever since it was brought up at our council goal setting session, I have seen an incredible amount of carts in the community. And so I agree that it would be great to have some sort of solution, whether that's, carrot or stick. So I'm interested in all of the ideas presented. Thanks.
So maybe some clarifications first. There is no cost to the businesses if you implement the ordinance if they come pick up their carts. The only cost is they get fined if they don't pick up their carts in 72 hours. My thoughts is we wouldn't take them back to the city shops. If we have to pick them up, we take them to the store and then we bill them for it, so we don't have to handle it twice. On the braking system, in chatting with Captain Lindahl, I asked about that, and he stated this was the ORS that gave us the authority to implement an ordinance, but he did not find anybody that had an ordinance that required the braking system, but there are plenty of them that have them in California, so it might be something that may or may not be allowed. I would state that we just go ahead and ask our city attorney to look into whether or not we could deviate from the state statute.
And I will get this store I'm talking about is in Oregon, so I'll find out that for you.
Yeah. We did hear about another store in Grants Pass that had it, but it was a store imposed rule.
And I think, well, this individual told me it was a city, but he might be incorrect, but I'll find out what city he's in, and then I'll let you know, Nate.
But we could do a little bit more research and bring back additional information for you.
I just think it's a better way to go, because otherwise the staff is still involved, we still have the carts, and they're still on the street. And then you have the ones that are, we don't even know where they go because of things being ripped off. But, this still facilitates the homeless and moving the product and the trash that we have to deal with. And like I said, I see people all the time with it. And, you know, this was brought up at one of the town hall meetings, as the captain had mentioned, where they said it's theft of services, which it is, right? But we don't prosecute them because, as it was stated, what are we going to do? Tell them to empty everything on the sidewalk and then we have to deal with it and then take the cart back? I mean, it's just a, you know, one problem after another.
I think it's also a perception issue. So we're not talking about the economic impact from the visitor, right, that comes to this community and sees that and perhaps doesn't return because they don't feel safe here. So I think there's that aspect of it as well. I agree with Councilor Kilmer that $50 doesn't work. So I like your idea, Roger, of perhaps just billing them if we're returning them. I will say when it comes to ordinances, we've led in many places, so I have no problem with this council, if it's legal, for us to lead with an ordinance that no other city has enacted yet.
Yeah, thinking on it too, it could cut back on just theft from the stores. When I was up in Astoria, I saw a guy load up a cart and just start to take off out their parking lot. So, yeah, that wheels lock up, that'll stop that real quick.
Well, and you may engage the businesses more if they understand that this could be potential part of that ordinance, a little bit tougher on it.
Yeah, and would there be any availability for grants to help facilitate maybe the initial cost too? I don't know. I mean, just to, I know it's way out on the, that's totally out of the.
I'm not sure that we have excess funds.
Not us. Is there some kind of grant that we could help facilitate? I don't know. Anyway, I know it's a long shot, but maybe there's, I won't say it, but it might be available, so.
Well, no, upon thinking about it and hearing everybody, I am kind of liking the braking system. It seems like it would be better for them to not have to spend extra money on buying new carts or having to pick up carts and then wash them. It sounds like they're incurring a cost. I can't imagine that they wouldn't want those back. If I had a keg rolling around down the street, I'd want it back. And I'd wash it. But that's me. If there was a way to prevent theft of those, I would do so. So, you know, maybe the ordinance going towards a cart locking system makes more sense to me at this point. But good conversation so far.
Okay, so staff kind of knows where we're going. Is there any other comments by any of the counselors for some direction? And I think Roger kind of got the gist of where we're coming from, I think. Okay, thank you for the report. I was hoping you'd have an easy resolve for us. All right. Next item is the summer fall capital improvement projects. My gosh, 16, is that what I saw here?
16. Okay.
Okay, Jennifer.
Hello, everyone. Due to this region's weather, specifically the cooler temperatures and the large volume of rain that's experienced in the spring and winter, summer and fall are ideal conditions to perform the large capital non-emergency projects for the city's streets, facilities, and infrastructure. This year, the city has identified 15 construction projects and 1 design project. For these large CIP projects, procurement rules need to be followed, specifically related to advertisement, duration of advertisement, opening bids publicly, prevailing wage, and then award. So if an award is greater than $75,000, which is the city manager's maximum approval, then we have to ask council or the agency. So staff is advertising for bids for the construction projects and a request for qualifications for the design project, and will present these projects to council for consideration to award over the next several months. Attached to your staff report, you'll find, thank you. Attached to your staff report, you'll find the location map, and then Greg Hamblett, our operations administrator, and myself will go over each project and answer any questions that you may have. Okay? So Franco gas station demolition. This is item 14 on your location map. So this property is at 585 Newmark and was gifted to us along with 130 South Wall Street by Dutch Brothers. Ultimately, the city plans on putting a public parking lot there, but first we need to demo the old gas station due to public safety. So we are going to fund this with URA dollars, and right now we've estimated $50,000, which is less than the $75K cap, but we wanted you to be aware. Visitor Information Center painting project. City staff will procure a contractor to paint both the inside and outside of the Visitor Information Center. The project will be procured and managed by city staff. So we have two green parking lot projects. Third and Central Green Parking Lot. This project proposes 14 parking spaces. It's going to be located in our downtown area. The project proposes to treat 100% of our stormwater runoff prior to discharging to the bay. The parking lot will also serve as overflow for our farmers markets and our special events like the Blackberry Arts Festival, the Fun Festival. The project is funded through a loan with the Department of Environmental Quality State Revolving Fund, and the cost estimate for this project is $1.1 million. The second green parking lot is at Front Street between Cedar and Date. Dyer Partnership has designed both of these green parking lot projects. The Front Street project proposes 35 space parking along Front Street. The existing site has been identified as a brownfield and will be remediated as part of this project. It also treats 100% of the storm drain and stormwater prior to discharging to the bay, and it is funded through the DEQ SRF loan program. The cost estimate for this is $2.4 million. So we have 4 projects for Plant 1. So the big one is the Plant 1 Phase 1 upgrade. The existing plant was constructed in the 50s. It was revised or upgraded in the 1970s, with the last upgrade in 1990. We contracted with Jacobs to perform pre and final design. The upgrades will consist of yard piping, a new secondary clarifier, a new chlorine contact chamber, electrical upgrades, generator upgrades, and the programming upgrades. The project is being funded through a loan with the Department of Environmental Quality, and it's estimated to be between $14 and $16 million. So as a result of the Plant 1 Phase 1 upgrade, we're going to need additional parking and storage. So we're planning on doing that design in-house. We have estimated that will be approximately $90,000. So another project associated with Plant 1. Last summer, we took down our aeration basins, and we identified that the columns in the aeration basins supporting the landings some spalding and deterioration was observed. So we coordinated with Jacobs. They've designed a repair, and we are going to bid that this summer. The Plant 1 handrail guardrails. So throughout the plant, and due to its age, where the hand and guardrails meet the base, it's spalding and deteriorating and failing. We've coordinated with Jacobs. They've designed a repair. There's several different types of structural repairs that need to occur, and we will be advertising that this summer. So the 2 I&I reduction projects, they're Date Avenue and 3rd Street between Highland and Market. Those both are being done in-house. In total, we're replacing about 400 feet of pipe and 4 manholes, and we're going to be bidding those here very shortly. And then we have the Coos Art Museum, HVAC improvements. So we're working with the Coos Bay Board, and we're going to provide them assistance with bidding and construction management. At this time, they don't have the design, but they have secured their funding through the Judith Mogan grant and then another private entity. They've estimated $100,000 for that project. And then one last project before I turn it over to Greg. It's the Plant 2 outfall replacement. So this is the pre-design RFQ. So as part of our permitting, one of the requirements was that we had to televise our 2 outfalls. So Plant 1 came back with just some minor repairs, but Plant 2 came back and there were some major deficiencies identified. So we've been coordinating with the regulator, and we have to start at the pre-design phase and the regulatory processing. We're told that's going to take about 2 years, a minimum of 2 years, just to get the design and regulatory processing completed. So for the pre-design phase, we have budgeted approximately $750,000. So now I'm going to turn it over to Greg.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Council. So just to kind of carry on from where Jennifer left off, the city staff will be working with the Coos Art Museum to make some loading bay improvements for some additional storage there. The project is going to consist of enclosing the existing block existing dock to create additional storage, which includes partial existing loading dock demolition, CMU infill walls, wood framed walls, double 15-door penetration, kiln exhaust venting, stucco, and paint. Like I said, staff will be helping through the procurement process and the construction management. The project is estimated right now at a cost of about $75,000 to $100,000. The funding for the project is both through a URA grant and also a private grant that was secured by the Coos Art Museum. The next project I'd like to discuss is the Commercial Avenue Sidewalk Improvement Project between 5th and 7th. The scope of the project is to rehabilitate the sidewalk on the north side of Commercial Avenue between North 5th Street and North 7th Street. The project will consist of asphalt, concrete pavement, sidewalk improvements, ADA ramp improvements, tree removal and tree planting with tree grates, demolition work, and other miscellaneous items. The design was performed by the Dyer Partnership. The bidding was done in-house, and the construction management will be performed by the Dyer Partnership. That project will be funded by the URA. The second project that the third project I'd like to discuss is the Commercial Avenue Street and Sidewalk improvements between 3rd and 4th Street. It's going to consist of a cold plane removal of the existing pavement, full depth asphalt removal, sidewalk improvements, curb and gutter removal, and replacement of existing trees, new tree wells, grates, and remove and replace traffic detector loops, striping, ADA improvements, and other miscellaneous items. The estimate for this project is $300,000. Once again, that's going to be funded by the URA. And then also this project is designed and construction management will be performed by the Dyer Partnership. And finally, the last project for this proposed list of projects is the 2023 Street East Side Road projects. The project proposes work on 3 different streets in East Side. E Street between 5th and 2nd Avenue, 3rd Avenue between D and E Street, and 1st Avenue between D and C. These projects, or that project, or those 3 roads, will consist of a roadbed demolition and reconstruction on E Street between 5th and 2nd, and a grind and inlay on 3rd Street and 1st Street between D and E and D and C. And so that'll get some improvements on some aging roads out in East Side as well.
Did you give us cost estimate on that one?
Oh, I'm sorry, $400,000. And the funding for that will be gas tax and TUF dollars, TUF dollars.
Is the staff, I remember when we bought some equipment, we can do our own grinding, if I remember correctly. So will that come out of staff time for that East Side Street project?
No, that piece of material, piece of equipment that we have is for smaller projects. I would say up to maybe 20 linear feet or 40 square feet.
Okay.
These are big projects, yeah, much larger in scope. But we do do all of our pothole grindings with that piece of machinery as well.
Great. And who will do this project?
This will be managed in-house by city staff.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So you'll go out for bid on it?
Correct.
Okay. And so we're out for bid, am I correct, on Front Street parking lot and also 3rd and Commercial? We put those RFPs out, correct?
Correct.
Do we expect, what's the time frame on getting those back? What is the time frame?
I think one of the projects bids next week, and I think the Front Street bids the following week, I think it is. So over the course of the next 2 weeks, we should have.
Great. So hopefully we get lots of bids. And then do we have a time frame on completing the project? We're hoping by the end of the summer, the end of the year?
I want to say, and I can get you the accurate timeframes, but I think we have 120 days respectively for each project.
Okay.
For completion.
Great. Thank you.
I think I remember Jim saying, though, that for the Front Street project, if we had it completed before October, it would be a really good thing. Is that still accurate?
Yes, because we don't want to be messing around in that contaminated soil during the rainy season.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
And since we brought that up, can we maybe talk about the insurance and how that project is going to be funded? Wasn't there something to do with the insurance on the Front Street?
So, the city has an agreement, with the, previous owner. We, deducted, part of the sale price because of the work that was gonna have to be done. He secured and found an insurance archaeologist and insurance attorney who, we entered an agreement with. They've sought out, previous insurers. Sorry, I do have it on now. So we have an agreement with an insurance attorney. They have found the previous policyholders and presented a case. They have reimbursed in part some of the work that was done to identify a plan, and there's a possibility that additional funds could come forward for the mitigation, but probably not the entire project, because not the entire site is contaminated. Should that come in, we have an agreement how we would split those monies up between the insurance archaeologist and the attorney, the former owner, and the city.
So that's still on the table.
It's still on the table. I would say that there are no guarantees. The city's not driving that bus.
So can I ask how much has been reimbursed to this property owner so far through the insurance?
I'm not sure that I have that, but I see someone checking records.
In the meantime, I would like to thank Roger. I think Councilor Kilmer and I both received a call from the previous owner, and I appreciated the email that you sent to him. And Councilor Kilmer, I appreciate you bringing it up so we all understand where we're at in terms of the project.
And also, just to go, let's step back, and before the city took this over, this was being pursued by DEQ, if I understand correctly. If we, the city, didn't step in and use brownfields money to the tune of how much? I don't know.
There's been quite a bit of money spent over the last several years with the goal of getting an approved mitigation plan and undertaking the project.
And if we wouldn't have done this, this would have fallen on to be the burden of the owner, and the burden of the owner would have had to clean this up at their expense. And I'm not saying that.
Or the new owner.
Or the new owner, but I mean, I think this is definitely what urban renewal is about, and this is how we should move forward, and it'll be a win-win for everyone. But I just think that I wanted to get that out there, that this is a benefit to the owner, that we have taken this on also.
Without a doubt.
And the environment.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
We can certainly get the information that you want and send that to the council.
I just was curious. I mean, I for some reason I thought it was 20 or 25,000. I might be wrong. I don't know.
Your mic's off.
More than that.
I might be wrong.
No, your mic's off.
Oh. And my mic's off. Okay. And I might be wrong.
You're never wrong. That's on the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Anyway, I said we got sidetracked. I
We
appreciate
did get
it.
sidetracked.
Any other
That's okay.
questions? Carmen, Sarah, anyone else for Greg about the projects?
No, I'm just really excited to see stuff happening. This is awesome. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Yeah, 16 projects. It was hard to keep track of the totals, but we're looking like 22 to 23 million, maybe a little bit more. Anyway, it's quite a bit, and so it's always, I'm pleased to see how many projects we take on and how many things get done, the sidewalks, wastewater, and everything else. So anyway, thank you.
I would like to thank the staff because we do have, as always, a lot of goals, and the staff does, I've said it before, does such a remarkable job of getting grants for these projects, and we have a lot of initiatives in our 2023-2025 goals, and I just appreciate all the work that the staff does to make sure that those goals are accomplished and stay on point.
And also, if I might offer, it's a little bit off topic, but I want to make sure and mention this, that I do monitor social media, and I just wanted to let you know that I read a post from someone who was super happy about calling about concern with a pothole that had gotten significantly larger. And someone was out there, did the evaluation, and took care of that within just a couple of days. And so, of course, I asked which city, and I was pleased to find out it was our city. Right on. This is, you got lots of kudos there. Thank you.
I have one comment, or I guess maybe a request. If that update list, if we could just get I see the staff report. Some of them have funding numbers with them, but I was just wondering if we could potentially get an update with that, with the funding numbers, just so we have it to reference. It'd be kind of nice to see what we're spending. I should have written it down. That's my fault.
Well, I think it could be outlined on the, you guys give us an update on goals, right? I think all of these tie into the goals, so I think it's a great question, and we could add that into the goals.
Next month?
Great.
I believe Melissa may have some information for you.
All right, Melissa?
Insurance, we've received $39,335.13.
So that's how much we have given back to the owner?
That's what we've received in insurance.
He's gotten
Total.
25% of that.
How much?
25%.
Okay, thank you. All right, next item, anyone else? Okay, consideration to cancel July 4th, 2023 City Council and URA Board meetings. Roger.
So, generally, your meetings fall on the first and third Tuesdays of each month, and in July, your first meeting in July falls on July 4th. It has occurred in the past when holidays fall on that council meeting night. There have been times when the council has chosen to cancel the meeting. Council or your city charter does provide you that ability to cancel when you deem fit. So the question for you is, would you like to hold your meetings on July 4th or not?
I'll move that we cancel the meeting for July 4th.
You can suggest.
I got explosives to light.
I give my consensus. So yes, go ahead and cancel.
I think we should. Sarah, Carmen?
Yeah, I definitely want that night off.
Okay.
That's great.
So then our charter states that we have to have so many meetings, or?
It used to state that. It was amended a few years ago and gives you the ability to cancel them if there's no business of the city.
So I've brought this up in the past, but with all the other goals that I've mentioned in the council, is there a way that maybe during the summer and the holidays that we can maybe have less meetings to accommodate some of that? Just a thought. I don't know if we can get away with one meeting a month or we need to keep with the two. Anyway, just a thought to throw out there with, a lot of holidays and coming up in families and stuff like that. Just a thought. Anyway, I don't know if it's possible.
And I think if you were to look at that, you would just need to go into it knowing that the one meeting a month would be longer.
Okay.
I wouldn't have a problem with it as long as we weren't impeding staff from completing projects.
Right.
And if we thought that, that would impede staff from projects, I wouldn't be a proponent of that.
I would hope it would make it easier. But I don't know. I mean, just something to throw out there. I don't know how the rest of the council feels. It's just a thought, and it would have to be looked at by staff, as Lucinda has indicated, in my opinion.
I like the idea of just moving or canceling a meeting if we feel that's appropriate during those times.
Okay, well, that's done. So, I don't have any comments on here, so we just go to adjournment. But there's one thing that I was abandoned walking around in. Our pavilion, we talked about it being a place for people to hang out at night. And part of the problem that I can see is that they smoke and potential fires and all that other stuff. I saw them put glass doors, or doors that they were able to lock at night and then unlock during the day. Is that something that we can, the pavilion that we have glass on, and some of the pavilions may be able to, block some of those areas off? I don't know, just a thought.
I'm sure you could. I think I would want to get with the building official and double check.
And, you know, I mean, and it's just, I think, you know, think about it, if pros, cons, maybe it's not something that we should do, but I thought it might be an easy fix. We've talked about taking the glass out to resolve some of the issue. If we put doors up, then that might be a more inexpensive, or an inexpensive fix and solve the problem. I don't know.
Talking about boardwalk?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think the reason you're bringing this up, Mayor Benetti, is because you have seen on your walks, you've shared with me that you're seeing more of the unhoused community there, and sometimes it's hit or miss, right? So what potentially is the long-term solution? Obviously, Roger would have to check for you know, making sure legally we can do it, but it is an interesting solution if I think it would, you know, be safer, but we need to make sure that building code would allow us to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that we have to allow the unhoused to be in certain areas at certain times, but also the compounds this problem is it being wood, and they do smoke, and it says no smoking, but they don't adhere to that, so it's unfortunate, so.
I can attest from having worked events and having to bring in sound systems that we cleaned off all of our cabling and everything because it's very unsanitary as well.
Okay, anyway, I know there's not supposed to be council comments, but those are mine. Anyone else, since I opened this up? I don't want to just cut anyone off, you know, give them the opportunity to speak.
I wanted to thank Nicole. Nicole attended the Travel Southern Oregon Coast conference. It was held last week, and it just made me happy to see you there. I think you came away inspired, and maybe there's some opportunities for grants and some projects potentially to work on, so thank you for attending. I also want to thank the staff for always being open to our suggestions and things to focus on. And I'd really like to thank Christine, Roger, and Nicole for the letter. We followed proper protocol, and we sent a letter to the Siletz tribe, the Confederated Tribes of the Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians, and the Coquel tribe, asking if we could work on a grant with them, with Travel Oregon, to put some interpretive signs on the boardwalk. And it sounds like we're almost to the finish line, and almost all of the tribes have said yes. And so I really want to call out Christine for a really appropriate, perfect letter. It worked. So thank you very much.
All right, anyone else before I adjourn the meeting? Councils?
Yeah, I got one.
Yes.
I was just thinking about my recent comments about communications with the port, and I figured I would be part of the solution, and was wondering if the rest of the council would be interested in doing some kind of joint work session or general meeting, kind of a goal-setting update from them as a way to bridge the communication gap that seems to be happening, and kind of wanted to see if we would want to reach out to them and schedule something.
Well, that's on our goals, and Roger initiated a meeting with just myself and a couple of commissioners, but I don't think it's out of line if that works to have a work session. I'm not sure how the Port Commission feels and the general manager, but I think I'm open to it. Anyone else? Yes? No?
I would like to know Roger's perspective on that.
Well, if it's the desire of the council, I would certainly reach out to the port CEO and see if that's a possibility.
Great. I agree with you, Carmen. I think it's a great idea. I think we've started down that road for better communication, so if we can continue to keep those lines of communication open, then we will all be successful as a community.
All right. Anyone else? Anything from the staff? Good of the order, is that what they say? Anyway, the meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
I wanted to congratulate Nate for winning his seat for North Bend School Board. So congratulations,
Yep.
Nate.
Congratulations.
A meeting adjourns now. Thanks.